speed is absolutely everything. There's nothing that kills a software project like a time delay. You move on to the next thing, the world changes again, and off you go.
From Notable Capital, this is Founder Real Talk, where we get real about the challenges that founders and startup executives face and how they've grown from tough experiences. Founder Real Talk is part of the Notable Capital family of podcasts, and you can access all our podcasts at notablecap.com. I'm your host, Glenn Solomon. Without further ado, here's today's episode.
Welcome to today's episode of Founder Real Talk. I'm your host, Glenn Solomon, and we're thrilled to have with us today Rich Waldron, the CEO of Tray.ai. And Rich, some of you may know, is a veteran of this podcast. I think this is episode number 3. And a cool thing is for those of you listening, we're actually in person. And I think, Rich, the first time we did one of these was in your old office in person. So we're getting back to pre-COVID days and doing these in person, which should be great. Rich is a real visionary in the low-code automation space. He co-founded Tray.io with a mission to empower businesses to solve complex challenges without the typical constraints that technology imposes. We first met Rich and his two co-founders, Ali Russell and Dom Lewis, in 2018. We were lucky enough to lead Tray's Series A round at that time, and I've been on the board now for several years, probably more than Rich cares to admit. But it's been great to be on the journey with you, Rich, and be part of the amazing Tray story. One of the reasons I'm excited to have Rich on is Tray recently rebranded as Tray.io. Rebranded from Tray.io to Tray.ai, which signals a real significant pivot in the company's business towards AI-driven integration and automation. We're going to explore that journey to the journey to Tray.ai today, the impact of AI on enterprises and technology, and where Tray.ai has the opportunity to really innovate. So, Rich, welcome to Founder Real Talk. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Glenn. It's an honor.
So let's start by digging into this transition from Tray.io to Tray.ai. What prompted the rebrand? What's behind it? What did you that's a hard thing to go do. So why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, I think as founders, we enjoy pain, and there's no greater pain than rebranding your entire company and reiterating your mission to the world. But truthfully for us, this journey probably started nearly 2 years ago. When we started working on Tray almost 10 years ago now, the grand vision for us, and we always talked about Tray being the kind of central nervous system of an organization. This idea that if you can interconnect into everything, that then gives you the capability to start, automating on top of the data and the processes that you have, and ultimately that becomes one of the quickest unlocks you can have as an organization. Mm-hmm. The example we always used at the time was Amazon, who kind of came out of nowhere, and through automation from the moment you placed an order on their website to the robot going and picking the order and running it through their distribution network, they tightly integrated the entire stack in such a way that became their competitive advantage. And so for us, this idea of firstly interconnecting everything was kind of phase 1 of the company's mission and the first part of the journey. The part that we weren't totally sure how we were going to deliver on, but was really the big vision for us, was once you get there, what can you do with all of that interconnectivity? How can you start to understand how a business functions so you can make improvements? And as we've all seen this amazing evolution of AI, particularly this last few years where the pace has really picked up, suddenly that view became right in line. And it felt to us, it felt certainly to me and Ali as we were kind of tinkering around, that not only was our industry going to change, but the way that everybody interfaces with what they do at work was going to change. And unless we fully adopted that, and unless we kind of fully thought about how we were going to bring that to market, we ourselves could be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like something that we absolutely had to do if we're going to be honest about the direction that we want the company to go in. And if we're going to go out and show people the best way to go and do these things, you've got to lead from the front in how you brand yourself and how you tie your message to what you're trying to do.
Makes a lot of sense. You've said that it's in your observations, you've seen like most companies are really having big challenges bringing AI into their own organizations and integrating AI into their own tech stacks. What are the friction points there? Why is that happening today?
Yeah, there's a few different kind of key points that I've seen from being on the road this past year or so, and they typically fall into these categories. Firstly, the great thing that AI has done is it's generated a whole new level of innovation within organizations. So now everybody in every department is suddenly saying, hey, AI can help me do this thing that I've been doing all the time that I don't want to do anymore.
Right.
And that request is finding itself at the office of the CIO, in front of these kind of AI groups that are created within organizations. And they're kind of overwhelmed with so many different ways that they could go and implement the technology. So firstly, it's determining what are the things that we should go after. Secondarily, it's agility. With any new technology, kind of being capable and ready to fail fast is hugely important. And for a lot of organizations, this just isn't how they've operated for a long time. And so what I've seen is the organizations that have made the biggest impacts have a really agile approach to delivering AI solutions. They are trying things out quickly and they're getting measurable ROI fast. There is also a large number of these organizations that I think are buying technology and investing in some of these services, but they're taking the idea of it being a prototype. And so we're seeing a lot of growth, we're seeing a lot of investment going into AI, but I think what we're starting to see is some of those implementations are stagnating.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's putting more and more pressure on these teams because the pressure is on them from above to say, hey, what are we doing with AI? How are we going to go and implement it and get it ready? And then secondarily, it's, well, which are the biggest challenges we're going to go after first, and how do we go and do this? And then lastly, it's all about data alignment. In order to really take advantage of this technology, do you have all your data in the right place? Are you able to connect into all these services? It's all well and good turning on the AI offering for every service that you have. But if the average enterprise has got 70 applications per department and every single one comes with an AI offering, who plays referee? Which one gets turned on? Which one doesn't? How do they cross over? So, there's numerous challenges in successfully going and deploying these solutions. That said, I've been really impressed with the speed in which some organizations have moved and have got tangible, measurable benefits from doing so.
Yeah. The benefits are clearly there. It's just a challenge, as you say, for many companies. Now enter Tray.ai, right? You're adding immeasurable value to your customers. Why you guys? The iPaaS space has been around a while, you're serving IT. Yep. You have some formidable competitors, but Tray is clearly doing things differently.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what those differentiators are, how you're accentuating them, and how your customers are benefiting.
Yeah, for us from day one, one of the key pillars to our differentiation was how we architected the platform. It means that we execute every transaction individually, so it all happens in real time. But it means that if you're carrying out an integration that loops through 200,000 records and the 150,000th fails, you can find it in Tray and you can rerun that individual step. That's a real key architectural gain that we've brought to the space. When it comes to deploying AI solutions, being able to do prompt engineering at scale, being able to stand up these solutions and actually come up with ways in which you can take vector databases, large language models, and actually compile and create a solution that you can go and deliver within an organization is a big engineering effort. Unless you're going to go and buy an entirely new stack out the gate, you're going to be building applications. And so what we've done is we've taken the fact that we've got this amazing architecture that's blazingly quick and allows people to run these executions at scale, and then filtered in all of the AI capabilities and toolkits that you need to build these solutions. So if you think about what an iPaaS has, It's got connectivity and access to data across your entire stack.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a capability to go and execute an application without scaling machines, without figuring out the servers that you need to configure or anything that kind of sits in between. And then lastly, it has a pre-built logic engine that allows you to construct these solutions. So when you put those things together and then you put in the capability that AI brings, suddenly you can come up with an idea and deliver it within the same day, within the same week, and you can get that prototype out extremely quickly. And ultimately, that's the thing that gets pushed into production and becomes the backbone of your AI strategy. And so we really see a massive opportunity to help be the rails for these organizations to go and deliver on these solutions, because we already exist in the stack and because we have that sort of super fast time to delivery from an execution standpoint.
You've positioned yourself as the AI ready iPaaS platform.
Yeah.
Is that working with customers? Do people get it?
Yep.
Are you changing how you're going to market as a result of this shift?
Yeah, what we found is that firstly, I think to successfully, become a platform or to become a software service of note, you've got to be seen strategically. There's a part in all of our journeys where you maybe land as a point solution and you kind of work your way up. But to really scale, you've got to find a way that you're viewed strategically within an organization. And for us, a big part of that was, integration and automation is viewed as a key strategic investment, but AI is now at an equal footing. And so for us, being able to sit down with a CIO and talk about, hey, what are you doing about this backlog that's building up? How are you dealing with this entirely new stack that you have to go and tackle? What are the best ways that you can go and show ROI within your organization today? And lastly, and probably most importantly, how do you future-proof this investment? It's no good buying something that isn't going to be able to stand up to the demands of AI in 12 months' time, because even if you're not doing it today, you sure as hell will be in 12 months' time. So the combination of those things has changed, obviously how we've positioned the company and how we're messaging, but it equally changes the conversation that we have internally within these organizations, because you kind of go from being platform provider to consultant on how these companies make the right moves with the technology that's available to them.
And if you're going to consult, you got to back that up with product, right? So let's
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about how the product has evolved. You've launched Merlin Build, the AI palette. Talk a little bit about some of the things you brought to market that really help accentuate this differentiation around AI for you guys.
Yeah, we've had a hell of a year in terms of shipping product, and some of the examples that you call out there, we moved super quick in getting Merlin out to the world. And Merlin for us is firstly the capability that helps you build these solutions out. It's kind of your assistant that helps you build the best solution. It catches any issues that you have as you develop your solution. It's now evolving into being able to determine and pick up on insights from these integrations that aren't just performative from a technical perspective, but actually starts to recognize ways in which you can improve your business. So Merlin for us is the kind of brand and the way that we position the AI intelligence layer within our platform. If you break it down, there are really two main levers. Firstly, there's AI augmented development. How do you use AI to help you create the best solution? How do you use AI to document the solution and create the right governance and control over what you've developed? How do you use AI to do things like guard critical customer data or make sure that it's not being pushed into a separate service or an LLM that you don't want it to go to because that contravenes your contract? All of those things exist natively within Tray. The second angle is about taking the AI solutions that exist in the world and making it much faster to deploy them. So, we're connecting to every type of vector database. We're providing our own native vector database for customers that maybe haven't adopted one yet. We've created a plethora of connectors that will do things like semantic analysis, data extraction, the sort of standard functions of AI. We're packaging them up and making them really easy for our customers to consume. And then lastly, we're also partnering with and connecting to all of these other AI service providers so that for our builders and for our customers, They can get into the Tray platform, open the AI palette, and here they can connect to the service that's already been approved by their IT department or within their organization, and they can start utilizing this within their environment straight away. So it really brings it kind of right to the tips of your fingers to get it deployed.
And what I've seen is a lot of these projects, they start with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm internally. They can lose momentum because it takes a long time. There's a lot of layers and complexity to get through. How are you guys dealing with that and creating speed as part of the answer? Yes,
for me, speed is absolutely everything, because you're totally right. There's nothing that kills a software project like a time delay. You move on to the next thing, the world changes again, and off you go. Where we see some of the best results, firstly, processes that already exist that are being reinvented or improved upon, right? Everybody has a quote to cash process. How do you up level that with AI? How do you start to gain a benefit that you weren't previously getting? And if you've already built that out using your iPaaS solution or using Tray, going in and augmenting that solution, going and adding AI to it, suddenly becomes a far more iterative process. So the first steps are identifying the processes that already exist that you have a good understanding of, where you can go and make a gain kind of straight out the gate. Secondarily, adopting this agile mindset. We do a number of AI agent workshops. We do a lot of on-sites with customers where we'll get small teams together, and we will make sure that we have something stood up by the end of the day. That then gives them that tangible result. It gives them something that they can go and demonstrate, because it's as important how you go and market this internally to get buy-in, to get people to adopt these solutions, as it is to actually go and create the solution in the first place. So many times we see that once you put something in people's hands and they start getting used to it being there, if you ever turn that off, you'll know how important it was by the speed at which the support ticket gets raised, or the fact that it's then becoming relied upon. And what we've seen with a lot of the Gen AI solutions is that if you're expecting your employees to change the way that they interact, or expecting them to go and do something different, you're changing a workflow and a process that they don't have. Whereas these more kind of ambient solutions, which are doing things in a way that doesn't require the employee's input, that's where we're seeing the fastest gain. So really, how do you adopt that kind of agile mindset? Obviously, having a platform that makes it fast to go and deliver is critical, but it's as important how you pick your battles with which projects to go after in the first place.
Fair enough. Another inhibitor that we see with respect to AI projects, despite the demand that business leaders have to bring Gen AI into their companies, is security.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier, the risk of sensitive data getting into the wrong LLMs. How are you guys managing through that security issue as you're going into companies, your customers, and helping them with their Gen AI projects?
I think, firstly, as a software vendor, as a founder, security is an incredible differentiator and asset when you consider it up front in anything that you go and do. A great example of that, before Tray had 10 customers, we were SOC 2 compliant, and that was before it was trendy to be SOC 2 compliant, as it has since become. And so from day one, we've always been thinking about, if we're going to be a successful and broadly used platform in enterprise, we've got to be able to go and demonstrate, why our security is not only top notch, but we've considered all the angles. And so with AI, straight out the gate, we had an AI policy stood up with our customers. We give them granular control over what actually gets fed into Merlin in the first place. There's it's opt out by default. There's full controls for every admin. In order for us to access any data that sits on our customer side, the customer actually has to approve it within the platform. There's a whole bunch of sort of controls and guidance that we put into the platform itself. But then we actually started to see using AI as a strength from a security perspective. So things like using Merlin Guardian, which can recognize data that is potentially sensitive, and will automatically tokenize it and allow you to control exactly as a downstream customer, hey, what's going in here? Why is it going in here? Let's make sure that we're filtering at the most granular level which data goes where within our platform. And in doing that, you not only earn the trust of your customer, but if you think about the story that you're able to go and tell, if you've got 200-300 applications within your organization, and as I referenced earlier, every single one now has an AI capability, how the hell are you going to get your head around, okay, which one is pushing which data into whose model and where and what is being done with that? If you centralize this, and if you centralize this delivery mechanism for AI, you have the control. And that really does become a critical part of the security story.
Sounds awesome. What kind of feedback are you getting from customers on this initiative, this transition from Tray.io to Tray.ai, and emphasizing the AI capabilities of the platform and helping customers with their projects in this area? What kind of feedback are you getting?
The feedback has been just incredibly exciting, because the thing that's astonished me, some of the largest enterprises in the world who are Tray customers have stood up in production AI workflows today. A massive logistics provider is doing AI-driven data mapping within their platform that's entirely Tray powered. I've never seen kind of a speed or the tenacity or even the hunger for adoption of a technology like we're seeing right now. And so for us to be in a position where we get the privilege of going in and saying, hey, here's how you bring all these ideas to reality. Another great example, there's a 100-year-old law firm based in Europe, who now every time they bring on an intern, there's an influx of interns every quarter, they have to come up with 2 AI automation ideas that they're going to get into production. And historically, these interns have been coming in and doing manual process work, looking up data in company's house or tax returns or whatever else to go and support the lawyer that they're working under. They're now being trained how to go use AI, how to do prompts, how to bring this automation to life. And you think about what that's going to mean for that organization as those interns make their way through their career. And so us having the opportunity to go and sit down with customers, to sit down with analysts, and to kind of get to scope out the future with these people has been really exciting, and that feedback has really been overwhelming. That's
a really cool example. And I can imagine that there's sort of an endless list of automations that a firm like a professional services firm like a law firm can implement to really improve their business. Must be quite gratifying to have Tray as the backbone for companies that are forward-leaning like that, even a 100-year-old company.
Yeah, and also I think there's a lot of debate around what AI is going to do for society, and when you see graduates and interns coming in and having an amazing kind of capability at their fingertips to go and deploy, it brings a lot of hope for what the future holds. If you can imagine how much extra business that organization is going to be able to create because they've got these people that have this skill set, that they're learning right at the start of their career. It just changes all of the options as we think about the next generation and what's to come. And for me, that's really, really exciting.
Thinking about the company in the long arc of time, right? You mentioned you've been at it coming on a decade.
Yep.
So you've seen a lot, and I'm curious, like, if there's a moment you could share with us, some part of the journey that is real memorable to you, something you're proud of, an accomplishment, or some obstacle that the company had to overcome that you think helps define who you guys are today.
Do I think I will give you a few examples, but I think this is one of those where it's the sum of the parts, because as a founding team, me, Dom and Ali have worked together for such a long time now. Once you get comfortable with being extremely uncomfortable all the time, there's almost nothing that you fear anymore, or once you've seen enough of these hair-raising situations or big challenges that every founder goes through, I think the thing that you sort of generate, that tolerance and that ability to find your way through, ends up that becomes ultimately one of the greatest outcomes, because you kind of feel like, hey, AI is here and it's going to change our entire model. What do? Like, do you sit and wait to get punched in the face? Do you get out in front of it? But I think to provide some sort of nearer term stuff, one of the pivotal points for the company was fairly early on, we landed IBM as a customer. And that changed the trajectory of the business, because it became a case study, it became a reference point, it became, it endorsed everything that we did, because if it was good enough for somebody like that, it meant that other organizations built that trust. And there's something sort of unspoken here too, which is it creates a completely different confidence in your own team. And the difference before and after for that within the organization was massive, because our team could go in and say, hey, companies like X, Y, and Z are using Tray to do these things. That changed the type of customer that we could go after. That changed the way that we went to market. That really moved the organization on. And I think it's being around long enough and giving yourself enough time to have a shot where that starts to happen, and then it happens again, and then it happens again. And once you kind of get that momentum going, you get into a groove. And so for me, I think that was probably a pretty pivotal moment for the company. There have been plenty of crazy situations, and even if you just try and comprehend the last 3 or 4 years of huge economic shifts, a global pandemic, our bank disappearing overnight over a weekend. No one prepares you for what's going to come around the corner, and I think that it's the sum of those obstacles that ends up being one of the biggest attributes that you get. It creates a sort of shield around your entire team and how you go to market.
Yeah, what resonates for me is it feels like those key moments, when you get through them, when you achieve something, it creates belief.
Yeah. And
belief is a really powerful thing, and it can get you through a lot.
Absolutely. And I think that idea of you're forever telling stories internally and externally, and not enough gets spoken about the importance of, exactly as you say, generating that belief internally, because that's the thing that drives momentum. Once you get that, once people feel that, they can they'll get out on the front line and make an impact in a way that they couldn't have done before. So I think it's really important.
Apart from this, generation of belief, you've been at this a while. You've built a quite impressive company. Looking back, is there a lesson you could share as a founder who's now been at a company this long and has grown it through up and down cycles? Some sort of pearl of wisdom on how to scale that other founders listening can take and use themselves?
Yeah, I think there's something that we speak a lot about as founders, which is early on, naivety is your greatest strength. Right, because you it's a bit like an artist recording their first album. You don't know how it's going to be received. You don't know whether the genre's right. You don't know, there are so many things you don't know, so you kind of go on your instinct, and that gets you really far. Like that, the challenges kind of set in once you get past that. Once you start to know a little, actually every decision becomes more daunting. You begin to bring more experts into the organization, and I've seen time and time again, and this happened to us, the periods where we slowed down the most is when we maybe stop relying on that gut instinct, or stop pushing in some of those areas where actually, the default human nature in many ways is to play safe once you've got something that you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to counter that feeling at all times. You sort of got to find a way to go back, and us talking about this shift over to AI is a good example of that. It would have been easier and more comfortable for us to have just continued on the course that we were on, but it felt so plainly obvious how the world was going to change and what our customers were going to be talking about. that we pushed through, and we pushed through with the team, and we got the executive team on board, and once we got going, I think we ended up, from decision to announcement, it was something like 30 days, as signing all the board docs, changing all the company details. It moved incredibly quickly. And I think the pearl of wisdom, as you put it, is continue to rely on that instinct and listen to it, because it's very easy to slow down and get soft. Once you spend forever trying to build something, get your first $1 million of ARR, and then you want to protect it. But if you want to get to 3, if you want to get to 7, if you want to get to 12, you kind of have to keep going, keep pushing it out there.
Yeah, I'm reminded of an adage that my old college tennis coach used to pound into my head. You don't want to play not to lose. You want to play to win.
Yeah.
And I think that
totally
translates
aligns.
well.
Oh yeah.
How about flipping the coin a bit for the typical IT leader or CIO, head of IT, and tech leaders who may be Tray customers today or evaluate Tray in the future? What's your advice on preparing for them to prepare their organizations to be kind of AI forward and AI ready?
Yeah, we've touched on a few of the elements. The agility, the agile approach, the alignment of data, but I'm actually going to double down on that. For me, the big piece here, and the thing that I think gives the most impressive companies the ability to adapt, is they structure their technology and their data in a composable way. So they think about how they create the unification of these different services, or they create almost these kind of microservices, sort of composable tech stacks that exist across software and data. And the reason that that's important is software vendors are going to change. It's taken 25 years for the cloud to really permeate to where it is today. And if you go back to the point at which that technology began to exist, now most software stacks look very different than they did 25 years ago. Well, the AI stack is changing on a weekly basis. The best model changes weekly or monthly. And so we're going to be having to adapt in a way that we've never had to before. So if you build your architecture in a composable way, if you get the core constructs of your processes in place so that you can switch in and out vendors, that you can switch in and out data types, but actually the thing that remains in place is the piece that you've composed, then you're going to have the ability to run faster than anybody else. And so much of taking advantage of what AI does, which really in its current form is allows you to reason at scale. If you've set up your architecture in this manner, does the data change? Does the vendor change? Does the process change? It doesn't matter. You're going to be able to apply AI to it. And I think that I read this week that Klarna, for example, they're no longer using Salesforce and Workday, right? And they've constructed a composable architecture. They've decided that the best path forward for them was to roll their own in a different way. And they, whether or not that's a good decision doesn't so much matter, because they've obviously set themselves up so that they can flip and change as they wish. And I think that adopting that mindset as a technology leader is going to be the thing that puts you in the best stead.
So to me, that speaks of the importance of agility. And thinking from core principles on how you evolve, how you architect, build, and evolve your tech stacks from the ground up to be agile.
Yes.
And be able to react as the market shifts. Okay, Rich, we're going to put you on the hot seat. We always end the episodes here on Founder Real Talk with a rapid fire round. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. What's a good example, the most unusual or unanticipated AI, like use of AI in one of your customers using Tray?
Oh boy, there have been some really interesting ones. One that comes to mind just because I've been speaking to this customer recently. There's a company that serves a large number of car dealerships, and they've used Tray and AI to give the dealerships the ability to respond to a hot lead in under 60 seconds by taking some summarization data from form submissions and from other data sets that they have to effectively flag those to the reps that exist internally. So that's kind of changing the entire way that sales motion works. It's tapping into a bunch of different sources to create intelligence that they're able to go and distribute at scale. That's in production. That's being used right now. There's another one, a company that will remain unnamed, who have built an end-to-end series of AI agents that will check in with their customers and provide creative briefings for the work that they're doing, completely hands-off. So it'll take a bunch of ingestion of data from previous campaigns that they've run. It'll serve up the campaign ideas to their customers, and then they'll actually be able to do the follow-up using AI over the other side. And effectively that means that their project managers are able to work a much larger number of accounts. They're still getting great service because a lot of this is about, getting the creative juices flowing, getting the engagement with the customer. Once they get that response back, it can be picked up, by a human when it needs to be. But before, they just didn't have the capacity to go and do that. So, those to me are super creative examples, things that people have stood up extremely quickly, and they're just kind of the tip of the iceberg for what I think is to come.
Well, speaking of things to automate, if you could automate one thing in your personal life using Tray.ai, what would it be?
I already have quite a lot of personal automation set up from, my lawnmower will go out and mow the lawn dependent on the weather and all kinds of other things that I've fed into it. It drives my wife insane that everything has to be automated, and unfortunately that comes with the territory. I think the one thing that I haven't done, and the one thing that drives me crazy, is when you're trying to book any kind of travel and you spend all the time figuring out what's the best flight, where's the hotel going to be, I need to go and read all the reviews. What I really need to do is set up a RAG pipeline, go and ingest all my previous trips and the responses that we had to them in one place, and actually start to get something that begins to save me a bunch of time in making those decisions faster, because that one continues to be a major time suck. So
once your preferences are well established, the AI should be able to tell you exactly where to go.
Exactly,
stay. Okay. Last one. If Tray.ai was a superhero, what would its superpower be?
Oh, this one's easy. It would be super intelligence. The I guess crazy dream that we had when we started the company was that we'd get to a scale where Tray would have the awareness to be able to say, hey, you could speed up the invoice processing that you have in EMEA by changing these things within your organization. And that dream's becoming a reality. So the superpower for us is, phase one, be the automation integration engine of choice, be quicker, more productive, easier to use, get people to a point where they can interconnect their tooling and create this composable architecture. We're now getting into phase two, which is once you've got that, all the pieces to the puzzle, we can start helping you improve the way your business performs. And it becomes less about the technical implementation of automation and far more about, here are the ways that you could actually change the trajectory of the business by looking at the way that you're processing data today, or looking at the kind of customers that you're interacting with. The power of AI is going to be able to transform performance, and the way in which that's going to happen is it's got to understand how your processes work in the first place. So for me, I'm delighted because processes are sexy again, and I've been waiting 10 years for that to happen.
Well, I've only been on 6 years of your 10-year journey, but it's been an absolute privilege and honor to work with you, Rich. And as I'm sure everybody listening today can ascertain from your answers, you're an incredibly thoughtful, strong leader, and I'm very excited about this transition to Tray, from Tray.io to Tray.ai. It is now abundantly clear why you've made that shift. And the opportunity is very bright in front of you. So looking forward to a very, very productive future. And here's to many more episodes together in the future. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, continues to be great working with all of the Notable Capital team, and as now the official veteran of the of the podcast, I can't wait to be back.
Great, thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Founder Real Talk. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us on your podcast app to help others find this podcast. If you have any questions you'd like to ask our guests or founders you'd like to hear on this podcast, feel free to email us at frt@notablecap.com. Notable Capital is a global venture capital firm based in the U.S., focused on early to growth stage companies in business and consumer applications and cloud infrastructure, which includes AI, cybersecurity, data, DevOps, and more. The firm has offices in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and New York. We invest primarily in the US, Israel, Europe, and Latin America. Notable Capital's enterprise portfolio includes companies such as BitSight, Block, Dscope, Drata, HashiCorp, Monte Carlo, Neon, Nozomi Networks, Orca Security, Slack, Synac, Vercel, Zendesk, and many more. Learn more at notablecap.com or follow us on X and LinkedIn at Notable Capital.
This episode was produced by Sashi Productions, music produced by Gus Culpo. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individuals only and do not reflect the views of their respective employers or affiliates. The information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be considered or deemed to be as investment advice in any way. Thanks again for tuning in.